Is it time to hit the panic button on the ag economy? According to new analysis from Texas A&M University, the answer is not yet, but we are getting close. As commodity prices crumbled more this week, costs remain high and it's creating a shaky scenario for farmers across the U.S. However, there is a bright spot, and that's this week's Farm Journal report. New warning signs of trouble in the ag economy came again this week. The Kansas City Federal Reserve releasing their latest ag credit survey showing early signs of financial pressure, with the most stress showing up in states that rely on more crops than cattle. The eroding outlook also showing up in the August Ag Economist's monthly monitor just released this week.
When you look at what we said for both relative to last month or last year, some of the most pessimistic readings we've had since we've been surveying here on 2024.
The latest monthly monitor asked the more than 70 economists surveyed if agriculture is on the brink of a recession. Nearly 60% said yes.
Maybe was surprising to me when we looked at, are we already in a recession? More than 50% said yes, we're already in a recession. That's a big change from where we were just 16, 24 months ago. And a lot of folks are worried about where we sit today.
As concerns about the ag economy pour in, Brown points out the net farm income situation would look even worse if it weren't for more positive prices in livestock.
Cattle, I think, has been helpful in pulling it up. At the same time, we see corn and soybean prices that continue to move lower. We know crop receipts are going to be lower than what they would have said back at the start of the year. Cattle probably higher, hogs probably higher, dairy probably higher, but I also expect production expenses at least not to go up from where they were originally in the first part of the year.
Cattle prices have been the bright spot, and there continues to be optimism in the cattle market as economists say rebuilding the U.S. cow herd could take years.
We're still getting smaller, actually, as an industry. We started this year with the lowest cattle numbers in decades. The indications are that the herd has gotten smaller this year.
Oklahoma State livestock marketing specialist Daryl Peel says the industry is looking for two major signs to see if rebuilding is underway.
One will be heifer retention. That's the big one that we're looking for.
Don Close of Terrain Ag has also been watching the cattle markets closely for decades. He says those strong signals of heifer retention are not showing up yet.
But when we look at the percentage of heifers in the slaughter mix, when we look at the percentage of heifers of cattle on feed, that we had an update with the July cattle on feed report, even when we look at the percentage of heifers in the auction receipts, we still don't have any compelling evidence that there's any measurable heifer retention going on.
Peel says they've been getting anecdotal comments from various ranchers who have started holding back heifers, but the numbers show it's not happening on a large scale yet. The other sign that shows rebuilding is not taking place yet is culled cows.
The other one is that cow culling will reduce to minimal levels as producers try to hang on to cows a little bit longer than usual. Cow slaughter is down about 16% this year, but if you look at it in the context of the broader set of numbers, that's probably not enough to indicate that we are actually in the process of herd rebuilding. That's still going to give us a culling rate of 10 to 11%. It'll probably drop down around 9% when we start rebuilding the herd.
Peel says the latest cattle on feed report showed as of July 1st, 40% of all the feedlot inventory is still heifers.
We continue to place heifers in the feedlot. We're not keeping them out in the country apparently at this point, and so that's a process that has yet to get started.
Even without USDA's mid-year cattle inventory report this year, signs that show cattle producers have not started to rebuild the cattle herd. And one reason they may be hesitant is because of this.
We got big geographic blocks of the country. It's certainly better, but to give those ranches an opportunity to recharge and really stabilize that grass just now or has not happened yet.
Peel says much of the outlook hinges on drought. He says the current level of heifer slaughter and heifers in feedlots in 2024 suggests that replacement heifer inventory is likely to show modest growth at best in 2025.
I think by and large we've had better forage conditions this year, and some folks can do it and probably are doing it to a limited degree, but there are concerns going forward about re-emerging drought, and particularly with the idea of La Nina rebuilding in the U.S., that's a concern for later this year and on into next year.
The other hurdle may be how expensive it will be to rebuild.
The cost of financing herd rebuilding and just producer expectations for these markets. They're enjoying these high markets right now, but the question is, how long will they last? Will they last long enough to make it worth that investment in those heifers for future production? Apparently producers don't believe we're there yet, so they have not started that process.
Another factor that may make producers hesitant to rebuild is some deciding it may be time to hang up their spurs.
But you take the average age of cow owners, something in excess of 60 years of age, I think there's still a lot of guys looking at total herd liquidation that, hey, I've fought this my entire life and this was my window to get out, and I'm taking it.
Until there are hints the U.S. cattle herd is starting to expand, market watchers say the fuel is there to support strong cattle prices.
Obviously, we've had strong prices. We've set new record prices for cattle so far this year. We've taken a little bit of a break here in the summer, kind of through the summer doldrums, but the markets are still on track to continue generally moving higher as we go forward.
Is there room in this market for prices to continue to go higher? Absolutely, I believe that there is. Now, I would not have producers expecting to see the market continue to rally at the pace we have for the last 2 years.
But that doesn't mean there won't be hiccups along the way, especially with concerns of a recession.
We've had all the recession talk back in the market since Monday's fiasco. We may or may not. But our real takeaway there, from all the measurements that we've been able to look at and dream up, we think consumer demand for beef, particularly retail, but even HRI, is still incredibly solid.
And to end on a sad note, the beef industry lost an incredible voice this past week, and we lost a courageous colleague here at Farm Journal. It's with a very heavy heart we share that our Farm Journal coworker and friend, Greg Henderson, has passed away. Greg passed early Friday morning. He was a fixture in the beef industry through his work as an editor and writer for Drovers for decades, providing in-depth analysis as well as covering all aspects of the beef industry. But he was also an advocate for the beef industry, leading and participating in panel discussions with experts to address the tough issues, as well as arming producers with information with his State of the Industry reports, helping farmers and ranchers understand current trends and challenges. Our sympathies are with Greg's wife, Ruth, and his family. We're truly going to miss our cowboy.